Good evening, ladies and gents. Episode 11 of the Fanzone Podcast. We're back again. We're joined with you by Ange, Colin, and myself. And the title of today's episode: Wembley bound Whites. Whether that is through the cup or via the playoffs, who knows, or whether it's both. But Wembley's certainly looking up to be a possibility. Especially after a very impressive performance against Portsmouth this weekend. So, without further ado, let's get into it. What was your both sort of initial match reaction to the game? What were your thoughts? Who impressed you? Who didn't? If anyone? What were your thoughts on a pretty solid performance, I think? Start with you,
ladies first. Ladies first.
Ladies first. Thanks, Carl.
I was first last week, weren't I? So,
Just a really all-round solid performance from the whole team. Obviously, went on Tuesday and we weren't us. We were off it a bit, but knowing that we'd made a fair few changes, I expected a win. I don't ever expect a win. But I expected a win on Saturday. Thought maybe 1 or 2, but 3 was nice because let's get them goals up as well, just in case it comes to it at the end of the season. Sort that goal difference out. I just enjoyed it. I felt comfortable all match. It was a lovely day out. It was freezing, but it was a lovely day out.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. I don't think there were many periods of the game where it was out of our control. There are a few spells here and there, but nothing that I thought was sustained at all. I thought we looked at a really good side. What about you, Colin?
Obviously, to echo a large part of what Ange said, I think it's highlighted the importance of us not changing the team as well from the league game prior. The continuity across that back five in terms of their relationship with themselves, but also the sitters as well in midfield, it allowed us to be relaxed during the game, in my opinion. As fans, obviously, and not of course the players would have been as switched on as at it as you would expect, but certainly from a fan's perspective, it was very much relaxing. In fact, I'm having a glass of wine. I would have liked to have had a glass of wine on Saturday watching that, because I think it would have been quite enjoyable, although it would have probably been freezing by the time I drank it. I just thought it was really relaxing, really, really, really good game to watch. Clinical as well. I thought we were clinical. We obviously scored early, which was good. It's the kind of game that you'd expect us to play against a side that is struggling and sat in mid-table, but you still need to do the job, and I think they did it very well. Be good as well. Obviously, it's all well and good us having our opinions and stuff on the game. Obviously, we've got, I think, 9, 10 people, 11 actually. Sorry, just now watching the chat, watching the show. So it'd be good if they could have their opinion on the game as well. It'd be good to chat about that. But yeah, overall, we really enjoyed it.
Yep, I am echoing exactly what you both just said. And like Colin said, if you are watching along with us, which we can see some of you are, drop your thoughts on the game, what you thought, who impressed you, what went well. But for me, I think it's important to look at another clean sheet. After a really impressive run of performances, that didn't look to be many tired bodies in the squad. We were energetic for the full 90. And never really looked like letting that slide. And another clean sheet, which I'm sure the team will be delighted with. And I saw a stat actually that was the first time, I think, excluding wartime football, that we'd kept 6 consecutive clean sheets in around over 80 years, which is pretty impressive and a good record to have at any level. 6 games without conceding any goals is pretty good going. We have had a comment in.
Thanks to BWFC stats for that one.
Absolutely. Our long-standing contributor, whether he knows it or not.
Steal from him all the time.
Well, we don't steal, we borrow. Danny said a good debut from Dan up top, good option from goal kick, chest the ball down well, which I thought was a good point, and something we'll touch on later, which was his debut. Very impressive actually. It looked very physical and good on the ball. David Green's also popped in and he said surprising the lack of frustration because the referee was actually decent, which
good ref. Yeah,
very inclined to agree with that.
When a ref's good.
When you don't notice him.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a very, very valid point that from David.
Yeah, I'd certainly agree with that. The referee was put on a pretty decent performance, and as you said, when you don't notice them, you know things are going well. Another point from David, BDFC 714, a great follow. Absolutely, he put some good stuff on Twitter, stats and things like that, and records and whatnot. And Chris Dawson has popped in. Oh, go on, Colin.
No, sorry, I was going to add to the clean sheet conversation. I think Williams at fullback is seamlessly slotted into that back five, which is even more impressive. The fact that we're managing to keep clean sheet. With obviously there's the element of restructuring from a central defensive point of view, but also the left side of defence as well. I think there's more to come from him. I think he's been quite impressive. I think he obviously attributes lean towards offensive capabilities, but I think defensively he's done pretty well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I was impressed by some of the attacking output I saw from him on Saturday. I thought some of the balls that he put into the box were really good. His delivery seemed pretty on point, and that I suppose will only get better with more game time and more minutes under his belt. As I say, Chris Dawson's popped in and he said a mirror image of the home performance versus Exeter. That's how you manage a game. Again, really good points from the people coming in. Same with Exeter. I don't think there were ever really a time where we looked in doubt. We've got another one, a very comfortable performance. Dempsey and Dion, very hard-working lads, and my two men of the match. Well done to the Pompey fans as well. Can you pick a man of the match?
That trip twice in a week as well, though, for them Pompey fans. And that bloody bell.
Yeah.
Bloody bell.
Yeah, they are a great set of fans.
Yeah, they're a great set of fans. They always have been, both home and away. I've been strapped back a few times over the years, and they've always been a good set. And they never show up, even when the 3-0 down, they're saying how crap they are. So they're singing how crap they are, should I say? So even in them type of times, they make a bit of a noise. So yeah, good set of fans.
Yeah. Sorry, Ben. Did you say man of the match?
Yeah, why not? Let's go for it. Who is your man of the match? I'm going to have to pass it on to someone else because I can't start on that. I can't pick one. Ange, who's your man of the match?
I voted Toll on the Bolton poll. Paul.
It's a poll, apparently.
Paul. But I could have given it to Dempsey. Either of those two for me.
Yeah, fair suggestions. What about you, Colin?
Carl Dempsey, man of the match for me personally. I think he's, again, I referred to the continuity between the team and how they're linking up with the sitters earlier on. I think he's a big part of that. His tenacious attitude, the way he goes about his work. Obviously, flies into every possible challenge, but uses the ball very well, and obviously that was evident in the second goal. Obviously, he's delivered that ball really well, and obviously he took the ball well, obviously, at his feet from, I think Toll played it over the top as well, and he's just a class act, and he's beginning to show us why. I think, is it Gillingham he came from? Gillingham's fans were obviously so much of a big fan of his, and also the fact that he's getting a run now, isn't he? And he's showing us, now that what we've got at our disposal. So he's my man of the match. I'd also like to add as well. Now, I know he didn't have a great deal to do, but I always think the goalkeeper always needs a bit of a special mention when you win 3-0 or comfortably or whatever scoreline it might be, because he was called upon a couple of times, and even if late on, I think there was some late flurries by them lot, and they could have scored. And the clean sheet is so important to us at this stage of the season, especially because obviously we're playing some of the so-called bigger teams. And yeah, I think Traff deserves a special mention because he was called upon a couple of times, and he's, a couple of saves were really impressive actually. So yeah, but yeah, Demp's definitely man of the match.
Can I add something as well about Kyle?
Absolutely.
So obviously, thanks. So obviously, he's going through a massive thing in his personal life, and he's going to be playing like he is at the minute. Like, he's playing like he's not got a care in the world. He looks relaxed. He's enjoying himself, and he's got all of that going on in the background. It's hats off to him to be coming and showing us that.
I think it's probably. What I'm going to do is I'm going to comment on that, Angela, because I think Ben's trying to focus on the amount of comments that we're having on the chat, which is really nice.
Okay.
my brain's going all over the place. I can't keep up.
It's nice like that. I've got on my side here as well, so I can see why he's looking. I'll let you deal with them, Ben. But yeah, Ange, to add to that, I think what it's probably good for him is the fact that he's playing football, because it's obviously going to be like a nice distraction away from kind of off what's going on off the field with his dad and that. So, but yeah, definitely deserves. He does tip of the hat for his performances with everything that's going on. Definitely.
Yeah, we've had a few votes in for people's man on the match. David Green said Kieran Lee along with Louise Davis, which is another commendable shout. I thought he was excellent. Really worked Portsmouth and drove us forward. My man of the match, I think, might be Charles, which Danny has said that he thought he was immense. He just runs his socks off. And Danny said he earned his goal, and I agree absolutely wholeheartedly with that.
Every week, he earns a goal every single week. He just doesn't always manage it.
Yeah, he's just unbelievable. His work rate and his energy and his enthusiasm, just his work ethic is exceptional. He never backs out of anything. He's always, tracking back when he needs to. I think there was one instance where I think they might have broke away from one of the corners that we had, and Charles was one of the first, to run out of the box and chase down the man. And, things like that just go a long way in a team that play such a high pressing, relentless game. Just going to whiz back a little bit. One point made by Chris, who said, who'd have thought that Aaron Morley would become the new MJ pivot, be honest. And, well, yeah, a very different player to MJ. They share some attributes, but wouldn't have put him as that pivot role. But wow, has he impressed me in it.
Do you think that sorry to interrupt, Ben. Do you think that is evidence of his ability to adapt and learn and advance on his game? Because obviously we only see him on a Saturday or a Tuesday evening, don't we? Like, he's training with MJ every day of the week, and MJ is I'm a massive fan of MJ Williams. I think he's a great central midfielder at this level. His distribution is great, and obviously he's great in the tackle. But he'll be picking up on stuff on him. There's no doubt about that. He'll be learning from him, and I think Aaron Morley is probably, off the top of my head, probably one of our more experienced players in our team at this level. He's played a lot of games at this level, so that shows how much we've got. Some of his disposal, we've got at his disposal so much experience, but so young and able to learn, and I think that's evidence of how he's playing. Great shout from Chris. That.
Yeah, only 22
he's like a sponge
as well.
Yeah, he's learning it. He's learning week on week. He's good things, big things to come from that lad.
Absolutely. There was a tweet I saw on Twitter from some United fans talking about the Casemiro pass in one of their games, and it was very remarkably similar to the pass that Morley played through to Bradley, one that we've seen on numerous occasions.
Are we saying we're going to sell Aaron Morley to Real Madrid?
Yeah. Well, with the transfer speculation that we've seen so far, I don't think my brain could handle that.
We could probably sell Aaron Morley to Real Madrid at his age and stage of his career, playing in League One for like 50 million quid, and Bolton fans are still say 75 million quid, 100 million.
Yeah, and there'd still be people saying we should keep him because he's a game changer. But
yeah,
there you go.
You can see a pass as well.
Yeah, someone commenting there saying, great shout about the keeper call. They never get mentioned when the team's winning comfortably, and another clean sheet to boot, which is a great point that I know you mentioned. When the team's playing well, Trafford can often fly under the radar, and just because that's what we've come to expect from him. But it's always nice to congratulate him on clean sheets and good performances all the same. A bit of an injury inside the first half, with Yon Daddy picking up a bit of a knock on what looked like his ankle. I don't think we've heard anything more on that. Hopefully it's nothing too serious, but I thought he started the game really impressive and was on track to be my man of the match. The way he puts himself about is just similar to Dion. His work rate and ethic, pressing from the front. I thought he started the game really, really brightly, and it's unfortunate that just after getting back to what he considered fully fit, he's now going to be sidelined for some period of time with an injury, which hopefully isn't too serious. So Louisa said that Williams, Escobar, as my kids call him, is looking impressive, which, yeah, I agree. Something that we spoke about actually before coming on here. I've not heard anyone call him Escobar, but I'm not. Maybe that'll catch on. Who knows? But yeah, I was impressed by him again. So some good distribution and some attacking output from him. Colin said actually before we came on that there's plenty more to come from him, which I absolutely agree with. And before we get on to the pressing topic of transfer speculation, I just wanted to touch on Dion back on the score sheet again. I think that's consecutive games that he scored in now for quite a good run. And he's looking good. He's found his feet again. We always knew that play was in there. But what are your thoughts on Dion's performance over recent weeks? Have you been impressed? I can't imagine you won't have been. But what are your thoughts on him? Go to you, Ange.
I love Dion. I absolutely adore him. I think he's just doesn't stop. He's like the Duracell bunny, and he just goes on and on. And if you let him, he would be running out there for the full 90.
Yeah,
thoroughly deserved every goal he gets. He works for, and just thankful that he sometimes proves the haters wrong when they don't think he's as good as some of us do.
Yeah. Are you going to say something, Colin?
He's confident, isn't he? But I think what we need to touch upon is what you mentioned a second ago about Bob Varson getting injured. If Dion was sat on this podcast now, I reckon he'd be saying, I hope to Christ he's not injured for a long time, because I think he helps him. Yeah. I think he helps him play as the game he wants to play, because I think he draws defenders, Bob Varson, because of the way he plays and his ability on the ball. And he obviously his ability to be able to play the right pass as well, because that's a big part of his game. You can see with Bob Varson that he's played at a high level. And yeah, when he's fit, it stands out a mile. And it's certainly in terms of Dion, he frees up space for Dion to kind of run into and get them goals that he's been getting. So I reckon he'll be praying that he's. And I am, to be honest with you, we can't lose Bob Varson. I think he's just that partnership has just started to click.
Yeah,
you could see it as well. Even I don't know how long did Bob Varson play on Saturday? 37 minutes, I think.
35ish, yeah, 30.
Yeah, around that.
So like, even in that short period of time, you could see that they were linking up, and that partnership was developing. So yeah, we all got to be praying and hoping that ankle injury isn't serious, because that'll be quite detrimental if it is. But as far as massive. Yeah, I think as far as Dion goes, though, like I said before, he's confident in it. He's starting to get on the end of stuff, and I think that there was an effort in the second half where it kind of got swung over from the left, and he hit a first time volley. If he's not confident, he's not hitting that first time. He didn't go in, but he could have done.
Absolutely.
And he'll probably get a swinger against, not a swinger, but he'll get a chance like that against Derby, and he might put it back at net because he's buzzing, isn't he? But I think he's buzzing because his strike partner's helping him, to be honest. The team's set up to utilise the centre forwards as a two. So yeah, we really got to hope that Bob Varson's not injured.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I think when we played with Dapo and Dion up front, it was often that the balls were coming into Dion's feet, and he was, tightly marked and couldn't find his way around. But having Jan up front is an outlet that we can use that offers some, something different. We can play balls into the air and he can bring them down, or win headers or flick ons and things like that, something that Dapo can't do, which ultimately means that Charles is the one, getting the ball played into him, which isn't always what he wants. He wants that space to run into, to create chances and things like that. But Chris has said, to the point that you raised, Carl, Dion was gesturing to Umwundalu to drop in and draw the centre half out, which is exactly what John Daddy does. But yeah, another good point.
Well, that just highlights my point about hoping that Bob Varson isn't injured for a while, because that kind of partnership that you'd hope that Bob Varson and Charles have got, which you quite clearly have, that's going to have to develop with and do. I guess I've got to get used to his name.
Dan.
Dan.
Just Dan.
I want to say when I say it, I want to say it right, so I got to get it right before I start saying it. Right.
You'll have to rehearse before the
I might
next
stand in front of the mirror and just saying his name until I get it right. But yeah, that partnership that Bob Varson and Charles have got, that's been developed and nurtured on it, and that'll take a little bit of time to come to fruition if Bob Varson is injured for a while. So yeah, good point, Chris.
Absolutely. So what we've all been waiting for, which is the transfer talk. Before we get into the really juicy bits, let's just touch on, obviously, Dan being the latest addition to the squad. What did you make of his debut? Obviously, it was a bit of a forced change with Daddy coming off, but I thought he slipped in quite well, and I don't think he looked out of place at all. There were a few occasions where I thought, he could have been either further up the pitch or a bit more central, but, as far as first performances go and debuts go, I don't think it was a bad one at all. What did you make of it, Colin?
You can see he's a bit raw, can't you? You can see obviously he's new to the team. He was making quite a few runs that the lads weren't necessarily seeing. I mean, I'm sure they will see in time, but that partnership weren't quite there. He's a bit raw in that sense. I think he played pretty well. He started off like a house on fire, didn't he? I think he faded off a little bit towards the end. But I made some notes here actually before we came on. He used. I made the point myself by saying he uses the ball well as a whole. He seems to, distribution seems to be pretty good. And when I looked into it, 75% accuracy in his passes in the 53 minutes played. So obviously he's dropping in, like Chris made the point of Dion asking him before, and he's using the ball well on the floor, which is obviously a big part of how we play. Also early as well, I think he offers us more of a threat than Bakayoko ever did. I think he offered more of a threat in the 53 minutes he played in the air than Bakayoko ever made in the air. He won 6 out of his 8 duels in the air, which I thought was it's a pretty impressive stat, considering we don't necessarily play the ball that long. Ground duels, he won 5 out of 7. So again, that's pretty good as well. And overall touches, 27 overall touches, and the majority of them were deeper. So obviously, Everton quite clearly recognises that he's able to play a little bit. So, but overall, I thought, you can't go and see. I don't often like doing this, but I just thought it was quite interesting because I don't really know a great deal about the lad, and he's only played 53 minutes in front of me, so I can't really form too much of an opinion about him. But overall, I thought he played pretty well. Probably should have scored that header. I think if he was sat on the pod now, he'd probably say, "Yeah, I should have scored that because it's a free header in it," and he's watching it all the way as well. But yeah, I'll probably give him a 7 out of 10 if I was to rate his debut.
It's not a bad rating.
I went on a bit then, didn't I? I ranted a bit. Sorry.
Well, if you've got plenty to say, then say it. Some point we'll come to you in a minute, Andrew. We've got some points from the people just watching. One here that he said he looks ready for 90 minutes every week, more so than JDB, which I think is perhaps a little harsh on JDB, given some of his injury look, when he has played for us. But I'd agree that he did look ready for 90. He looked energised and ready to go. Another one here that said, good debut, good in the air as well as skillful on the ball, could play a key part in future games, which is another great point. I thought he did look pretty technical and you know, as well as having that big physical presence, he didn't look, for lack of a better word, clunky and slow. Chris has said, and that shoulder barge, despite Backer's build, he was never physical enough, something we've been lacking, which is another good point. We've never really had that bully boy up front. I think if George Johnston could play up front, then that's what he'd play like. That'd be Dan and Wonderloo. Another one here that said, what do you think causes us to have these runs under Ever? Each season, twice so far this season, we have these runs of games where we click into gear. Once we stop losing, we keep it going. Which is a good point, actually, that I just wanted to touch on. We'll go to that in a little bit. We'll get Angie's thoughts on Dan's debut. What did you think of it, Ange?
I tell you what, he's a big boy, isn't he? He's like a Shire horse. He came on and I was like, I wasn't expecting him to look quite so big, but like Chris said, so much more of a physical player than Backer. I mean, I love Backer. I'm not going to diss Backer. He's given me some limbs over this past 12 months or so. And I think if that ball would have come in a little bit to his head, he might have put it in, but it felt like it was in the air for about 10 minutes and he literally watched it, didn't he, all the way? And if it had a bit more speed, he might have managed to get it in, but it's good effort. To nearly score on your debut, it's not bad, is it?
Am I expecting too much? We're expecting too much?
Colin.
It was.
I reckon he'd admit that he should have scored there. He's a free.
Maybe. I mean, keeper got his fingertips to it, didn't he? He saved it. It's not like he missed.
Yeah. I think because the ball was quite slow into the box and there was a lot of time there, the keeper had quite a lot of time to get himself in a good enough position and get across in time.
Sorry,
So just going back to Liam's point, what do you think causes us to have these runs under Everett? Each season, twice so far this season, we have these runs of games where we click into gear, and once we stop losing, we keep it going, which is a good point. And myself, I'm not really sure where what the reason is for that. I can't quite put my finger on it. A lot of people have said it's the January transfer window, but this time it started just a little bit before then. A good run of form, but who knows? Who knows what it is? Do either of you two have any ideas of what it could be? Any conspiracies?
Not conspiracy, no. I think I've got an idea why. I think it's a great question. First of all, is it Liam? Yeah,
absolutely. I think so.
I think the reason why we go on these runs is I think he installs belief in the players over a long period of time. He makes them believe that they're going to improve. If you listen to his post-match reactions and with the club, and obviously he's giving him his media responses, but he always says there's more to come, there's more to come, there's more to come. He's pushing them all the time. And also he's got the squad as well to utilise compared to 75% of this league. He's got the squad to chip and change it about and stuff, and have to keep them fresh and keep them hungry as well. That's why, obviously, that in the January contributing factor, we tend to make good signings and plan for the following season in January, and I think that helps signing better players, obviously. But yeah, I think he just installs belief in the players that they're going to get better and improve upon what they're doing at present. That's my thoughts anyway.
No, it's a good point.
Kyle said, didn't he, after Barnsley in his interview, that Ian's told him to just relax. He's a brilliant footballer and he knows what he can do. And I think what Colin says is probably right, that and I know a lot of people have slated Everett in his match interviews about saying that's not us and that's not how we play. And, when it seems to us like a bit of a poor excuse, but he's got to look after his players rather than trying to appease us. And if they know that their manager trusts them and believes in them, then absolutely he's going to get the best out of them. No point standing on camera and saying what a load of crap that was. he does it. I think it's Ian. I think it's just the way he manages that brings the best out of him.
Yeah, it's another good point. And long may it continue is all I can add to that. We had a point from Alex that said, can we just talk about how Dempsey wins every header he goes for? Which is a great point. He's an absolute menace in midfield. He just never backs out of anything. Every second ball or loose ball, he wants to pick it up and get us going again. And yeah, in the air, he never surprises me at just how high he can get up and challenge it and put himself about.
He's not very tall, is he?
No,
he's not. But
I think I reckon the reason why he's able to win them aerial duels as well he does is I think did he play rugby as a kid at a pretty decent level?
He did play rugby, yeah.
Yeah, there might be something to do with it. Obviously, he likes challenge, doesn't he? And I'm guessing he's probably involved in the lifting within the scrum as well. I wouldn't have thought he'd been in the scrums. Did he play rugby league or any reunion, whatever? But I reckon that's something to do with the fact that why he's able to win them battles, possibly.
Also, he times his jumps well. So the amount of him that jump about 10 minutes before it's anywhere near him, it frustrates the life out of me. It's like I need to send them all to dance lessons or something to try and get the timing. This is that phone.
I can't believe that someone's got a house phone in 2023.
Is that Ben?
I think that might be me. It's not mine.
Well, it's not me, Ben, and it's not Anne.
I
think it might be Ange. I think Angie's playing us on.
I won't mind hearing in the chat. I won't mind hearing in the chat. Everybody's watching. Just say yes or no. Do you have a house phone? That's all you need to say. Yes or no. See what kind of response.
I have a house phone, but no one's got the number for it.
Yeah.
Whilst we're waiting for them responses to come in, not a topic I thought we'd be talking about. I can't lie, that wasn't in the agenda that I put together. Chris has said, hang on, we're talking about good delivery into the box. When did we start doing this? Another area of our play to improve in recent weeks, which, good point again. There has definitely been an improvement into that final ball, which we have lacked so many times. So let's go through the responses to the house phone. We've got 1 for yes, 2 for yes, 3 for yes, 4 for yes.
Colin, it's you. You've not got one. Everyone else has got one.
There's more no's.
So there's 1 for no, 2 for no, 1 for what's a house phone, which I'm assuming is a no.
What's a landline?
Another 1 for a what phone, which I'm assuming is another no, so that brings up to 4. And then another one saying no. So I think that's 5 to no, 4 for yes.
There's another no just popped up. So yeah, anyway, let's talk about football. For now. Yeah. Try and mute yourself, Ben. Come on, man.
I can't hear it. I can't hear it through my headphones. Someone else put up a comment in the chat. I think it was Dan, who said new headphones for Christmas, and he's absolutely right. They're good as well because I couldn't even hear the house phone ringing.
But you're using the most sensitive microphone on the planet, though, so the rest of us have got it ringing in our ears.
Yeah, you can probably hear next door's house phone ring as well if they've got one. But yeah. After some of the comments on my headphones in previous pods, I had to invest in some new ones. We'll leave that one there. But finally, I suppose we'll touch on the other rumours of incomings very briefly. One with another player who I'm not entirely sure how to say his name, but we're going to go with Ayoub Assal from Wimbledon, and the youngster from City in Carlos. Just Carlos. I'm not even going to try and say his last name. But 2 new rumours that have been sort of floating around. We've seen quite a lot this window of players that might be coming, might not be coming. Obviously, when we were linked with a few forwards and whatnot. But I think we've been crying out for a number 10. I know we've spoken about it on this pod a lot of times. On our January wish list, a good number 10 was in that role. And although Ayoub Assal has been often put on the wings for Wimbledon, he's capable of playing in a 10. What do you make of those rumours? I think the one with the City youngster is a little bit more hit and miss. I saw somewhere that he was linked with a move to Southampton and that they were in the mix of clubs interested in him. So that's one that's a little less likely to come to fruition, I think. But, the young lad from Wimbledon is a little bit more likely. What are your thoughts on that? We'll go to you, Colin.
Well, I mean, if the lad that City's being linked to Southampton, then we just ignore that comment and talk about the lad who plays in League Two, to be honest. I don't know much about either of them, to be honest with you. I did a bit of research along the lad who plays for Wimbledon, Sal. Am I right in saying the chat might have more of an idea. Is there a £1 million release clause on that? Is that right?
I believe so.
Something like that, yeah.
I think that is the figure that has been thrown around. It's not cheap, put it that way. It's more than we spent on a lot of players combined, actually.
Most of the bloody team, most of the squad, I bet.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't have thought that we'd be paying $1 million up front, of course not. Probably, there'll be installments and all sorts of stuff. Similar to Dion's, I think, deal with Accrington. But him, as a player, he's 20-year-old, isn't he? He's played 22 games this season. I think 20 start, 2 from the bench. Scoring 5 goals, 8 in all competitions. Predominantly a left-sided midfielder, left winger, LW. If you play a bit of FIFA, I think. Similar to Dapo in that respect. That might be a bit of an indication of where we're at with him. Obviously, he's right-footed as well, which is again identical and plays across both sides and also in the middle, which is quite interesting because I think we need a 10, don't we? As well, personally, I think. So somebody can play across the whole of the attack. 20-year-old as well, I think, is a highlight. Because I think he's played in League One as well, hasn't he? When Wimbledon was in League One last season, is that right?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not entirely sure on that, but I do think that was the case.
He's got a bit of experience for a young lad, hasn't he? Which is obviously good. So yeah, I mean, transfer speculation when we're a League One team is a bit nor here or there, really, is it? We've not got that kind of understanding of the players, have we, really, that we probably all for. So you rely a lot on the stats, which I don't particularly like to do. Despite my comments about our new centre forward Dan earlier. But yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, £1 million is a bit steep, but Dion seems to be a good investment so far, doesn't he? So it's probably worth it. No real comments about the lad from City because again, I don't really know a great deal about him either. But if he's come from City, he got a little bit about him, hasn't he?
Yeah. What about you, Ange? What are your thoughts on Asal? Obviously, none of us have seen much of him or will claim to know much about him, but it's always nice to have that little bit of speculation and excitement in January, as we've had for the last 3 seasons. But what are your thoughts?
Like Colin said, I don't really know anything about the lad. You can Google all you want, you can Wikipedia all you want, and stats are stats, aren't they? Until you get someone in the door, I reserve judgment on any player that would potentially would come to us. I don't think for a minute we're going to pay £1 million for anyone because Everett said 1 million times that we're trying to be a sustainable club and we need a new pitch. So I don't think we're going to be paying £1 million for someone. I did see. Did you see Isles' tweet today about the Premier League player?
Yeah.
So I think he's probably a more reliable source. He did make a comment to say that Everett had previously been interested in Assel, wasn't sure if he still was on the radar or not. But I would tend to kind of go with what Mark Isles has said today, and that'd be nice.
Yeah, it would indeed. There's been a lot of speculation that it could be one of United's youngsters, given that obviously Ferguson was in attendance at one of our games. So when you're being linked with that quality of player, it's always exciting. There's not been many windows in recent history where we've looked forward to seeing new names on the team sheet. It's always been a case of who can we get out the door because they've been crap this season, whereas this time round it's a case of looking to strengthen in already good areas.
Can I add something? I'd love for the people that are in the live chat to comment. Am I getting old here? Like, I'm 35 now, but I don't get excited anymore about players that we sign until they're playing. Like, I want to see them do well for us. Like, I'm not really too fussed about what they may or may not have done for Wimbledon or wherever we sign them from. I want to see him in a white shirt performing week in, week out, and that's when I'll get excited. I don't. I mean, as I said, I might because I'm getting old. I don't know, but I don't think that. I just don't get excited over signings or potential signings until we've got them and they're performing. Anybody add to that? Am I being?
I mean, I think I'm I'm the oldest on the panel. I don't get too excited about transfer gossip in general, because until the club announce it, you could say we're signing bloody Ronaldo. Do you know what I mean? I'd prefer to just wait till the club announce it and then go, oh, okay. And then Colin said, get him in a white shirt. Let's see what he can do for me.
I mean, that doesn't help. Doesn't help the content of the podcast. I'm very, very well aware of that. We're trying to be funny, and I'm trying to shooting it down, but I don't know. This is me, and obviously Andrew agrees as well. But we're too old.
It is a good point.
We are old.
Maybe quite a lot of that is just due to the nature of the league we're in. When players are being passed around the rumour mill, we don't really know that much about them. But when teams are playing in the top flight, a lot of the players that they're being linked with are big names that a lot of people have seen play and have already developed some sort of a reputation on the big stage, so to speak. We've had a lot of people say that the same thing, that they aren't really that excited about it.
We've been excited in the past, and they've been right bloody damp squibs, haven't they, once we've started for us? So
yeah.
We've had a few comments as well, Ben, about Asal. I think Dave Green said I'd invest in Asal. He's 21 next week. Interesting to an elaboration on that. Why would you invest in Asal, David? Have you seen him? Do you know more than us? What is it that's kind of so good about us spending in excess of probably £500,000 on him?
It's a good point there. I know the Wimbledon fans rate him pretty highly. There was one tweet I saw that said anyone who triggers that release clause should be in court for robbery, because he's a brilliant player. Obviously, I can't agree or disagree with that because I haven't seen him play and I won't pretend to. But it's always nice when the opposition fans are reluctant to see one of their players go, which leads us quite nicely into our next bit of transfer speculation, which is, of course, the rumour mill with Dapo and where he may or may not be off to. Before anyone shares their feelings on it, or before we get any comments in, because I don't want to, but I can imagine there's going to be some contrast of opinions. Let's have a look at what the Twitter poll says. Paul says, sorry, I will get it right. So the result, one of the polls that we put out was looking at his market value and what sort of the bid that we'd be looking to accept would be in the region of. I don't pretend to be any expert in, the transfer market or how much players are worth.
Don't you play Football Manager, Ben?
I do, pretty religiously, actually. Not that I like to admit it. But so the options were between 500 and 750,000, which is, I think, the a supposed market value of what he was worth. I think the transfer bid that was rumoured to have been put in by German side St. Pauli was actually higher. But there was the other option of 760,000 to $1 million, stepping up the game slightly, 1 million to 1.5 million, and then one that's over 1.6 million. The most common choice was between that 760,000 and £1 million benchmark. Second popular was 500,000 to 750,000, and then pretty small numbers for 1 to 1.5 million. And then, believe it or not, there were some people that thought he was worth over £1.6 million. If you are watching, which a few of you are, so to those of you that have contributed, do let us know what you think his current market value is, what you'd be looking to sell him for. If you were in the hot seat, what bids would you be accepting? But let's start with sort of the people on the pod. Just to start with, Colin, what's his market value? What are you saying? What bracket are you putting him in?
I reckon I'd be pretty happy if we got around $750,000 for him personally, with the hope and potential that you've got add-ons on that, whether it be appearance fees, whether it be sell-on fees, whatever it might be, goals scored, promotion fees. I'm sure you'd hope, given the fact that our club seems to be run pretty well these days, the guys at the top will probably add on add-ons, if you will, because I think that's important for the club to kind of progress with as much money as possible. So yeah, around 750 to $1 million, possibly, depending on the add-ons and stuff. Because obviously they're in Bundesliga too, and I know historically they have played in the Bundesliga, so they'll have I think they're like 3/4 away down the league, so they're not exactly looking for promotion this season, I would have thought. But in the future they'd probably look to hopefully get promoted, so you could look at that as a possibility. So yeah, around 750 grand, I'd say, maybe a little bit north of that.
Yeah, it's a fair point. What about you, Ange?
I thought it's $500,000 to 750. Like Cole said, bang a load of add-ons. Job would be done for me. I think I get why people are kind of trying to justify a higher value for him, but we're in League One. It's like, yeah, he's a good League One player, but he's a good League One player. He's potentially Championship player, but I love the boy. I think he's done fantastic things for us in a white shirt. But I would be happy with that first valuation, like with an upper absolute max of 750.
Do you think we'd have got more for him last summer?
Yeah,
absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, I do as well. I think we'd have probably got more.
Yeah, we've had a comment actually from someone who said could have potentially got $1 million for him this time last year, but didn't. Now worth 750,000 in my opinion. Wait until summer at this rate, and he's worth less, surely, which is another good point.
Yeah, absolutely. He's gone. He's definitely gone. He's gone. He's definitely gone.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't think the question is he going? I think the question is how much for, which is unfortunate.
We'll never find out, and we'll never find out because it'll definitely be undisclosed.
It's one of them things, isn't it? But yeah, it's a good point. His stock would never have been higher than it was at the end of last season. After a really impressive season, it has to be said. Alex has said happy with 800,000, which is a good point. Somewhere around that, between the 500 and 750,000 is what I was leaning towards. Louise has said 500,000 with a sell-on clause. We've had another one that said 750,000 in add-ons. One here, I will go through them all. 500 to 750,000. Another good point. One from Liam, which is a good point. It says Moneyball. We got him for nothing.
Like for nothing.
Trajectory. Sell for over 600,000. Good all round, and that's the model. Everett said that from the outset. It depends if we owe West Ham anything, which is another good point. There might be some clauses in our signing of him that meant we had to pay some compensation. But that Moneyball point is a really good one. We didn't pay anything for Dapo, or maybe not up front. And whatever we sell him for is profit, and that is at the minute our business model. We are a selling club. We aren't in a position like some of the bigger teams in this league to hold on to players and fight our way through transfer rumours. There's no shame in admitting that, and I wish more people would do. One from Jake here, 500 to 750,000. Personally, comparing it to the Scott Twine transfer to Burnley was silly. As long as we can replace with someone who fits the system better and helps us with the promotion push, which is another good point. I don't know why people were making the Scott Twine comparisons. I mean, I can sort of understand it, but I think it was.
I think it's just frustration, Ben. To be honest with you, and I do get it because, like, if you look back at like my time following Wanderers, like over the last 25, 30 years, we haven't ever sold players really at the right time, excluding Anelka, you might say. We've always hung on to players for too long. So as a result of that, we tend to be like feel like we've got an affiliation towards these footballers, when at the end of the day we watch a sport that's a business more than ever before. So we can't really afford to be have an affiliation with these players, because we just got to use that model and move forward as a club and not linger around the EFL for too long. We need to be looking at the top end of the Championship and get promoted back to the Premier League as soon as possible. And you only do that by buying or getting players and selling them on for more money. Simple as that. Unless one of our 300,000 Twitter followers as a club have got multi-million pounds in the bank willing to invest, I think the best attitude to have is to realise that and support the club's decisions regardless.
Yep, that is a great point. Another really good point, actually, from Jake, that said, it's what the club is now, following the same model Brentford did, and look where they are now. Trust the process. There aren't many Brentfords knocking about, but I don't see any reason why we can't be one of them. But the big thing is, trust the process. I'm sure we'll have many more of these conversations in years to come of players that, have played for us a lot longer than Dapo did.
I hope we do. I hope we have these conversations 10, 15, 20 times over the next 5 years or whatever we have the pod for, or even just as fans, because that means we're doing something right. So let's hope we do.
Absolutely. Chris has said Cole's right. Remove the emotion. It's a business transaction, which, in its rawest form, that is exactly what it is.
And obviously we recognise as well that, it's not easy to do that, because he's a great player at the end of the day. He's a great lad as well. Personally, I'll have nothing but good things to say about Dapo when he leaves. I think he's been brilliant for us, both on and off the pitch. I've never met him myself, but I know lads who've got kids who've been mascots and stuff and been to parties when he's been involved, and they've all said that he's been a great lad with the kids, and on and off the field he's been fantastic. So I wish him all the best. And at the end of the day, he wants to progress his career, and staying with us, pissballing about in League One, playing Morecambe or whoever else are playing, he isn't going to progress his career, is he? Wants to get the move to make him a better footballer and have a better career. So I wish him all the best, and I think we should all do that. Whether he leaves to Germany or whether he leaves to a Championship club and we end up playing him in a couple of seasons, he's done the job well, and he's done it well. Yeah, no, it's a good point. I'm sure there will be the oddball that has some bad things to say about him on his departure, but for the most part, I wish him nothing but the best, and thanks for what he's done so far. Moving slightly away from the transfer rumours, the halfway point of the season has more or less arrived. It is upon us. And if you haven't already, for the people who are watching, if you head over to our Twitter, which you can see at the bottom, it's at the Fanzone Pod. There is a recent tweet on there, which we're going to run through now. I'll give you all a couple of minutes to just run through that and drop your comments on it. But we're going to be running through, for this season, your best player so far, your worst player, best signing this season, worst signing, which is a bit of a tricky one. We've got some debate to come from that. Your most improved player, your most underwhelming, and your biggest surprise. I think there are a few people watching who have already dropped their thoughts on this, so we'll be sure to run through those. I don't know, obviously, that we've got ours. And I'm sure this will spark some conversation. But without further ado, we will get into it, and I'll keep an eye on Twitter, and if I see any of you drops your thoughts in, then I will go and take a look. But if we start with best player for this season, we'll go with Ange. Who's your best player this season, and why?
Georgie Johnson. You know why? Because he's amazing.
Yeah.
Instantly solid.
We need more than that,
Ange. Colin. He's consistently solid in that back three. First name on the team sheet every single week. Future captain. The end.
Well done.
Future captain, if we can keep hold of him.
Shh.
I hope we don't. I hope we
Colin, don't start with your bloody money ball.
I hope we sell him for £5 million to whoever, Burnley or something.
What about you, Colin? Best player? I think we're all pretty on the same page with this one, but we'll go ahead.
Well, I said to you before we went live that I would keep in mind to myself because I wanted to start a conversation. Best player for me, James Trafford. He's a record breaker.
I nearly sang then.
His distribution's impressive. He's commanding of his area. Could be better, but he's pretty good considering he's only a 19-year-old lad or a 20-year-old lad. He's been consistent. He's just signed a 5-year contract with City, so he's not shit. And he's potentially a future England goalkeeper. But as far as we're concerned, I think he's been brilliant. And like I said before, going back to my point earlier on the pod, when called upon, when we're winning and when we're winning comfortably, he still makes vital saves.
Yeah.
So mine personally is Traff.
Yep. No.
Good shout.
Mine, I've gone for Georgie J as well. Echoing what Ange just said, I think he's just the consistency of his performances have been the big thing for me. There are many weeks and many games that I've watched where there have been players that have been miles off it and have really, not looked the part. But I don't recall any standout performances that I've seen with Johnston where he's looked, miles off it. There's been instances where the whole team's not been up to scratch, but just the consistency and quality of his performances is what's put him at the top of my list. Just week in, week out, always. Never ever fails to not put a graft in, and he's a great player. And to do that at 24 is just testament to his work ethic. It really is. We'll run through some of the things on Twitter as we've gone through them. Quite a few of you have put them in. If you want to drop them in the chat as we go through, you can do that as well. I think we've had one here that says Trafford, mirroring what Cole said. Connor Bradley, another really good point. Jake Cross has said Connor Bradley or Owen Toll. Chris has gone with Jono as well. And if we move over to Twitter, I think the most the standout one is Georgie J. Maybe what I'll do at the end of this is compile how many people actually said what, and we'll dish out some imaginary trophies well, maybe for the best player. I'm not sure about the worst player. I'm not sure that's an accolade many people want. So moving on to that one, worst player of the season, which feels a bit harsh, but there certainly has been some
You're a harsh man, Ben.
Performances. So without further ado, Colin, who has been your worst player this season?
I feel bad with this. I mean, it's absolutely irrelevant because we're only doing this for the purpose of Twitter, YouTube, and whatever other platform we play on. And people, whether they like our opinions on it or whatever, I'm sure the players couldn't care less. But I do feel bad because the other week I was hoping and praying that this fella would pack up his bags and go for his own career and his own mental state. So I probably shouldn't be putting him on my list, but it was very hard. Joe Dixon is my worst player because I think when called upon, he hasn't performed, and he's not been called upon very often. But when he has, he's not performed, and I think he'd be disappointed, I would imagine, in his own performances in that respect, because the least you expect is to put performance in when you are called upon as best you can, and I think he's failed miserably on a few occasions. Most notably, I think against Villa, I think he was, although he did make a couple of decent saves, but he conceded 4, and one of them was an absolute howler. Whether I'm expecting too much of a goalkeeper who's predominantly played at League Two, probably, but it was a very hard question to answer. So Joel Dixon.
It is. David Green said we do not have a worst player, which I back that sort of opinion.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard.
Tough to say, but Ange, who are you saying?
So purely because we have such a good squad at the minute, and I too have gone with the scapegoat that is Joel Dixon. But similarly to Paul said, that he's had his moments. Even Tranmere in the Papa John's, his positioning was dreadful.
Yeah, great show.
And he's not a kid. So for me, you can forgive if you were bringing Lukey Hutchinson in and sticking him in goal for Papa John's and his positioning was out. He's a kid. you'd forgive him. But he's what is he, 27 or something? You'd expect him to have that bit of his game nailed, and that for me is why Joel Dixon gets my worst player, even though I hate doing the bad ones.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's not a nice topic. But in terms of my worst player this season, I think mine is also Joel Dixon, which, like Cole said, I feel bad giving. It's not an award, is it? It's a criticism, but yeah, I feel bad saying it.
Yeah,
there's just been them opportunities, like he said, when he's had the opportunity to go out there and show us what he's capable of and instill some confidence and belief in himself, which I think is the most important thing. And I just don't think he's done that, which is a shame. And, you know, whether he moves out this window, who knows? But for me, I don't like calling anyone out, but Joel Dixon is
Ben, can we bring out 1 second, Dave Green's comment about Dixon and support? Can we highlight that off the screen? Because I think that's important as fans in general with any of our players. The key is we need to support them. Dixon has needed support, and I think you look back on a lot of fans' aggressive nature towards his performances is pretty shocking, really. We are there to support the lads and realise that we are in League One, and some of our players aren't good enough for that level. So I just wanted you to obviously highlight that if you wouldn't mind it, Ben. So thanks very much, because I think it's important for us to remember that.
There are ways and means of doing things, and witch hunts are not the way that it should be done. I mean, when you're in a job that's in the public eye and you're bearing all for all to see, you are going to get criticism. You are. It's just the nature of the beast. But there's ways in which it's delivered, and some fans absolutely go about it the wrong way.
Yeah. Yep. And just to sort of round that off, I think if you pay attention to Ian Everett's post-match interviews, that seem to have undergone quite a heavy transition from being perhaps overly critical towards his, first few to what seems to be a more getting behind the lads, picking them back up, and very much having the attitude of let's go again.
You know what he needs to do? You know what he needs to do, Dixon? He needs to man up.
Colin!
That was the very
Remember
specific...
that comment?
Yeah, that was
the
Billy
one I was
Collins,
referencing.
That was a
What
Billy
a corker!
What a corker! That was the one I thought of, and he seems to have learnt from that and sort of moved away. But on to a more positive one, best signing. I'll start on this one, and in fact, no, I'm not, because I still don't actually know. And who's your best signing?
Arise, Sir Owen Toll.
This is going to be boring, this.
Go on, give us your reason why. Not that you have to, but...
I mean, bloody hell. If I need to give you a reason as to why that boy... I don't even know how old he is. How old is he? Early 20s, isn't he?
22.
Yeah, he's absolutely coming like bloody steam train, and I don't even know how Getting's gonna get a look in. I honestly don't. He's gonna go far. That boy is gonna go far. Yeah,
good point. Colin, your thoughts?
Yeah, it should be a quick one for us to brush over this. It's Owen Toll. I think when you look at when he first came in, I think even Everett said on some form of media, I can't remember what it was, but he said that he was struggling a little bit with a few injuries early doors. I think since the Exeter game, he's been absolutely outstanding. I saw that he's averaging like 7.5 plus out of 10 statistically in his performances. The only kind of poorish game he might have had was the Portsmouth game in the Pizza Trophy on Tuesday, but I don't think any of them really at it that game, and we did well kind of getting past them. But yeah, I think he's been fantastic. Great signing, 23. Let's moneyball it.
And do you know why? Do you know why he was not up to his normal standard on Tuesday, Colin? My theory, anyway. because he trusts Will more than he trusts Rico in the middle.
No, well, I'm not getting into this now.
I know, and that's right.
That is a conversation.
Only time will tell, Ange. Only time will tell.
Yeah. We've had one comment that said signing of the season is Connor Bradley, hands down. Which my toss up between Toll and Bradley, those two are who I'm going with. But I think the one that edges it for me is Toll, and that's because that he's our player. There is just some, element of attachment there, which we shouldn't have, but it happens. You can't get rid of it. And knowing that he's our player and he's contracted to us and will play for us, hopefully for seasons to come, just about edges it as my signing of the season. Because loan players usually are all pretty good signings because they're coming from teams that are higher up in divisions usually. So to have someone that's, our own player and that good, Owen Toll is my best signing.
Until he reaches his true market value and then we sell him on.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that is the nature of the Moneyball system. I think everyone's more or less in agreement there that Toll is the best signing. And over on Twitter, the opinion is very much the same. I think a lot of people actually said Bradley over on Twitter. There was a few saying that re-signing Trafford on loan, but Bradley seems to be the standout one on Twitter. Either of those two, I don't think you can argue with. Chris has said, "What am I talking about? Player of the season, Lloyd Isgrove." Might have said that. Onto a slightly more negative one again. You'll have to forgive me, but worst signing, which I would like to rename to something else. I can't actually think of another name, but I think worst is a bit harsh because I don't think we actually have a worst signing. Perhaps you could call it most underwhelming signing, but that feels harsh. But we'll stick with worst signing for now, unless anyone has any better alternatives. Ange, who's been your worst signing?
I don't really want to play this game because I don't think we've made a bad signing. So if you're going off all you can go off if you want an answer for this is the least amount of minutes that have been played by a new signing, and that's Ben Owen Beck. So, but he's not in any way, shape, or form a bad signing, and that's all I'm going to say on it.
No, fair point. Colin, what are your thoughts?
This will enable us to get through this segment pretty quickly because I don't have any worse signings. We can move on from that, I think.
No comment from
Carl. There hasn't been one.
The reply on Twitter and in here actually was very much the same as that we don't actually have one. A lot of people have said Beck. And one of the points that I wanted to make on that was that most of the people who said that it wasn't an insult to Beck. It wasn't a criticism as such. It was more of an endorsement of the other signings that we've made, showing just how good they actually are. But no, I don't think we have a worse signing at all.
So if we do this again, should we not have that category?
No, we'll cut out the worst. Most improved player. This one I think is a mixed bunch that we've had in. But Cole, we'll start with you. Who's your most improved player?
I think the obvious one would be blank. I'm not going to say his name, but my personal one is George Thomason. I think he's been. He was fantastic before he got injured. The way he's obviously worked very, very hard on his game to get himself into our starting 11 in the centre of the park is testament to him, his abilities as well as obviously his attitude as well. Because I think it would be easy for him to kind of not work on his game. Go and play for Bolton, probably get another loan move to like a Walsall or something like that and go under the radar. But he's obviously again, I guess Ian Evatt's probably worked really hard on him and with him and learning from players around him as well. But yeah, George Thomas all day long.
Yeah, that's a good point. And one that a lot of people in the chat are agreeing with, and over on Twitter the response was very, very much the same. And you
I have gone with William Aimson.
That is the other standout name.
Yeah. And I do agree with Colin's comments about Georgie T. But for me, I've gone from, I always saw something in Georgie T, and when people were slating him when he was previous season, I couldn't see what they were seeing. But with Will, I had anxiety when he was on the pitch. I was worried about what he would do, and I don't feel that anymore. I'm so comfortable with him playing. So for me, I've gone with William.
Yeah. I think I agree actually with Ange on that one. My most improved player of the season is Will Aimson. And that's on the grounds solely that I actually always saw that player in Thomason. I always knew that he was a could be. Whereas there were actually instances last season where I wouldn't say I was wishing Will Aimson to leave, but there were instances where I thought that I was desperate for Santos to come back and almost rescue us. And to see that turnaround in what is actually quite a short period of time is phenomenal. He's credit to Will Aimson on that front. We've had some comments on here as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, Ben, if you don't mind pointing out, Liam BWFC 01 has elaborated on my Thomason comment, and I think he's absolutely nailed that. I got to admit.
Yeah, he said that pre-season he turned into a man, which is a really good point. You know,
he manned it up.
In the gym. He did. He did.
Support Ian Evatt, you know.
He's very clearly done a lot of work in the gym because he's come back a big boy. He's
grown, hasn't he? He's
filled out. He's filled out. Yeah.
So
yeah, he's certainly been hitting the weights. Most underwhelming signing, which I think is slightly more fairer than best and worst. The player that has almost not quite met your expectations, almost not lived up to the hype that you were expecting this season. And we'll start with you.
Oh, and it breaks me to say it, but Kieran Sadlier.
Yeah.
You can see there's a player in there, and you can use the argument if he's not being played in his best position, but I can't. There's no one else who underwhelms me quite the same. When I had such high expectations, I think it's easier when you've not seen a player before, or not heard of a player before, or not watched a player before, to not have any expectations. But when you have, that's the underwhelming bit for me.
Yeah, good point, Colin.
Declan John. I think last season he was involved in, I don't know the numbers exactly, but I know it's quite high, quite a lot of our attacking influencing within the game. It's quite high up with assists, I think, and stuff like that. And I think he's not pushed on for whatever reason. Something's obviously gone on with him quite clearly, but he's not separated that issue that he has with whoever it is in his professional, his career essentially. And I think he's I elaborated last week when I thought that he'd obviously, you would have hoped that he looked at it and gone, right, it's a sign of life from Cambridge. You can play centre half, you can play left back. I'm the left back. What can I do to improve to make sure he's not getting in the team? And he's flattered to deceive this season for whatever reason. It's a real shame because I like him offensively. I think defensively, like I said, he could have improved, and you would have hoped that he would have worked on his game this season to do so. And I think he probably saw his arse when the young lad from Liverpool came in at left back. I'm guessing, but Declan John for me.
Yeah, I think
There you go.
mine's a tough one.
Sorry. Liam just said it. I apologise. 5 assists, 5 goals from Declan John last season.
I knew he scored a couple.
That as a left back, he should be coming into the season doing 5,
Double.
10 assists. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Should be improving from playing in League 2 the season before to then playing in League 1. But, for back-to-back seasons, but whatever. Yeah, sorry, Declan John. Sorry, I apologise, Ben.
No. Mine, I think, which I've not seen too many people say. I think there were a few on Twitter that said this, but mine's Dapo. And that is based on his season last season and just how good he was. And I feel a bit harsh saying that because he was obviously predominantly played on the wing when we swapped to a fullback halfway through the season. And obviously he just hasn't had the chance to play there this season. But on the occasions that he has, Accrington is a good example of when he showed up and really was a game changer. But I think I was just wishing for him to be able to make that transition into either playing as a 10 in the middle or as a centre forward. I really wanted it to work because I knew that the 5-back was the long-term vision for whatever it had. And I was really, really hoping that Dapo would be able to fit into there. And we tried him at wing back in the 10. You tried him as a centre forward, and none of them seemed to accommodate his game very well. And so for that reason, I've put him as my most underwhelming. Next up is your biggest surprise. The most surprised player that's most surprised you this season, whether that's that they've done really well or that they've done really bad. I'll let you choose. Colin, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, it's easy for me. Conor Bradley. I think he surprised me. He really has. I don't know. I didn't really know what to expect from the lad. Obviously, I know he played a bit of Champions League off the bench. I think he played a few League Cup games as well. But I think considering this is his first season in men's football, you wouldn't, or first, in terms of like playing week in, week out, you wouldn't have thought it. He's been absolutely fantastic week in, week out. Even in his poor games, he's played well. Like, for example, Saturday, he didn't have his best game, but he was a threat and he did his job defensively. Yeah. So he was solid. He was a 7 out of 10, even in his poor games. So yeah, surprise, Conor Bradley every single day of the week and twice on Sunday, because I was really disappointed that we didn't get Fossey back. But obviously, I was meant to be made very pleased on that one.
Yeah, it's a good point. Ange, do you agree, or have you got someone else in mind?
I agree with Colin. Conor Bradley was my surprise for pretty much the same reason that I was devastated when we lost Fossey when he's recalled, and then thought, oh, we'll get him back, and then he went to, where did he go? Somewhere in Europe, wasn't it? Yeah. Didn't have massive expectations for Conor because, similar to Colin, had only seen him off the bench a few times in some European matches for Liverpool. But that boy, nice. That's a nice surprise. So Conor Bradley for me. I
agree with both of you and echo really exactly what you've both just said. Conor Bradley was my surprise. Just for the lack of expectation I had. I was obviously disappointed when we lost Fossey, but I had no idea what to expect from Bradley coming in. But even though I didn't have any expectations, he's certainly exceeded them because he's just been fantastic. He's been a really good addition to the squad and has been immense, a really consistent performer, and really, really important to our side, actually. We've had a comment in that said that David Green has said that his surprise player was Conor Bradley. He's now shown League One is becoming tough. He's one booking from a 2-match ban, which I didn't actually know, but that could pose some problems. Should he
so we've already worked it out, Ben. He needs to get it against Derby.
Right, okay.
because then he misses Forest Green and what's the other one?
Charlton, is
coming.
it?
Yes, Forest Green and Charlton. He's got tougher matches coming, so if he's going to get it, I mean, the cut-off's something like March, so he's definitely going to get one.
Yeah.
I thought he'd
already
been banned.
Yeah, because for his first 5 yellows, so then he gets another 5, and it's a 2-match ban.
Dirty bastard. I reckon the reason why he gets booked a lot is he plays on the edge, doesn't he?
He does. Yeah. He plays on the edge of a foul.
He plays on the edge. He's wholehearted, isn't he? And he reacts.
Yeah, he's all or nothing. He's all or nothing. Yeah, he does.
He reacts as well, doesn't he? Like when he gets hacked, or he'll give it a bit, won't he? And he's in the Reds ear, and everything that you want from your players, everything that the players at the higher level do, that's exactly what he is, and that's why at this level, I reckon he picks up a lot more bookings.
Yeah, that's a good point. And people have agreed. I've got another one here. Conor Bradley done a great job, real player, and not even filled out yet. Which is another good point. He's still maybe needs a pre-season and a diet plan from Thomason. Needs to be hitting the porridge and the spinach. But yeah, I think most of what we said, there's room for debate on some of them, but things like best player and things like that. There are some standouts in the squad, that is for sure. We're clocking on a bit here. I'm conscious that time is getting away from us, but I think we'll skip out the games to come section because Derby sold out. It'll be a good game. We all know what to expect from that, and hopefully we'll be joining you on that Sunday with 3 points in hand. But final thoughts, is a trip to Wembley on the cards? We are just 90 minutes away. Well, excluding extra time, but that's not quite got the same ring to it. We are 90 minutes away from a cup final at Wembley. Can it happen?
I think it's straight to penalties, Ben. It's no extra time. It's straight to penalties.
Oh, is it? Yeah. So we are 90 minutes minus penalties from Wembley. But wow. Accrington Stanley away, I'm sure that'll be one that sells out pretty quickly. People keen to see us, make that step. Do you reckon we'll do it, Ange?
God, I hope so. So obviously, I said, didn't I, in the Christmas pod that I wanted a Papa John's final. I want to win it, but they're one of those teams for us, Aki, aren't they? They're a bit of a banana skin. They
are a bit of a bogey team.
So I'm definitely not resting on any laurels at all, especially when we them just about in the league.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what allocation we get. I don't know what.
Yes.
Because obviously, if you look at the Papa John's as a tournament, you can give most clubs 5,000, and they'll never bring 500 or 200 or whatever it might be,
or 50.
Yeah, but with this. The I can't remember the fella's name on Twitter. The
Andy Hull.
Andy Hull. Is he going to be looking at thinking?
He's going to charge us an extortionate amount. I just know he is.
Is he going to be looking at it thinking, do I give it to my home fans and run the risk of not selling all the tickets? Do I give it to the Bolton fans and guarantee myself income? But it's on telly, so he's getting income from the telly anyway. So it'd be interesting to see. And I don't know what the rules are around because obviously the FA Cup, I think you're allowed an increase in percentage, aren't you, on your allocation, which is why Portsmouth can take 9,000 to Spurs and Charlton can take 9,000 to Old Trafford. But with that one, I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me if we just got the behind the goal standing malarkey. Because if it were me, I'd be thinking, fuck it. No chance I want Bolton fans sticking on the stadium, making loads of noise, and then putting my team at a disadvantage of getting to Wembley. I want to. With no roof, so I can't hear the buggers. So I wouldn't hold your breath thinking we're going to get 2,500 for Accrington. I think more like 500 will probably what it'll be.
It is a good point.
I think it's a tricky fixture, mate. Despite the state of our pitch, and I know that where are we? Dave Green said discuss the pitch. Despite the fact that our pitch, I'd much prefer them have them at home.
I think I would have as well. We are, at the stats show, we're much better at home than we are away. I'm not sure about the early goals, but it feels like I've seen a lot more of them early, silly goals conceded away from home than at home. Just on touching on the pitch, it is something we will discuss. What I propose we do is go and have a nosy at Derby's pitch next weekend, go and see what theirs looks like, and then we'll come back and on that
The
episode
pitch is,
we'll discuss ours.
Oh, just listen to the buff. So Mark Isles goes into it on the buff podcast. It's not been redone. The membrane and the mesh and stuff has not been redone for 17 years. It should be done every 8 years. We relay new turf every season, but that is the long and short of it.
Yeah.
But go listen to the buff.
It's a part synthetic pitch, isn't it? And
Yeah.
I think the contributing factor has been the excessive bad weather that we had in recent weeks. Relentless as well, and that's just kind of like, made the whole process quicker in terms of its deterioration. It is what it is. Yeah, I would imagine it probably plays all right. There weren't many players on Pompey's side and our side complaining about the way it was running on Saturday.
It looked like it was playing better than it looked, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely.
It is what it is.
It looked bad, but I didn't see many bobbles or complaints or things like that. So
other than Dion trying to knee slide on it, Jesus.
Yeah, that was
great
an interesting
sneeze.
choice. Yeah,
it is a bit embarrassing, but it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, and I don't think we'll see it. They'll get that sorted this summer. You can't do this in mid-season anyway, so.
He gets 10 days break, doesn't it, now? Because we don't play on until
till the 24th. Yeah.
Hopefully, don't piss it down in the next couple of weeks.
Oh, I think it might be snowing or something now. I don't know.
Yeah,
well, I should hope if it does snow, there won't be any knee slides going on there, because I think you might break your knee. Never mind, just graze them. But that more or less rounds off tonight's episode. A little bit of a long one. If you did stick with us all the way through, which I know some of you did, thank you very much. Lots of contributions tonight. I think that's probably the most we've ever had. There was actually one point where I was struggling to keep up with them.
We saw your little face, Benno.
I know. I was like, I didn't know where to stop. I was trying to figure out when we could go back and what we had to just forget. But thanks to everyone who did.
The contributions are brilliant. Like I've obviously I've got it on my iPad here outside of me. It's great. Like the more the merrier. It's I think he's I think he's class. So thanks very much.
It's what makes us the fan zone. It's the live and the contributions that's what makes us. Us. So thank you.
Yeah, ultimately we are the fan zone. We want the fans to be involved, and although we are the fans, we want everyone else to have their say as well. This is a podcast open for debate. Everything's up for discussion. There isn't anything that's a closed topic.
We just might not have time to talk about it.
Yeah, we might just have to miss you out and come back to you another time. Like I said, thanks to everyone who did tune in. We appreciate it. If you want to give us a follow on whatever platform you're on, whatever you're watching on, I can see 15 of you are on YouTube. So if you are over there, you know what to do. We say it every week. Subscribe to us and tap the bell. You'll be notified whenever we go live, so you'll never miss an episode. But that's all from us. So thanks as always, and we will see you next time.
See you at Derby.